Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something really interesting, AI regulation in the European Union.
hmm
You sent me this pretty hefty document.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
It's a beast. But don't worry, that's what we're here for, to break this down into something we can all understand.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that jumped out at me right away is that the EU is taking this human-centric approach to AI.
Right from the get-go.
So what does that actually mean?
Well, it means that they're really focused on making sure that AI serves humanity, basically.
Okay.
Improves our well-being.
That makes sense. I mean, it's not just about the technology itself, right?
Right. No.
It's about how it impacts us as humans.
Exactly.
So when you look at this document, what's the EU's overall stance on AI? Would you say that they're pro-AI, or are they kind of leaning towards this anti-AI sentiment?
You know, it's interesting. They're a little bit of both.
Okay.
They definitely see the potential benefits of AI,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also not shying away from the risks.
Yep.
They acknowledge that there's potential for harm.
Now you've got me intrigued. What kind of harm are we talking about here?
So they break it down into material and immaterial harm.
Okay.
Material harm is kind of what you would expect, like a self-driving car malfunctioning and
Right.
causing an
Just
accident,
physical.
something tangible, right?
Yeah.
But the immaterial harm, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
So think about like AI systems that are designed to manipulate your emotions.
Oh, like those social media algorithms
Yeah.
that keep you scrolling forever.
Right, or AI that could be used to sway your financial decisions,
Oh.
leading you to make risky investments.
So it's like psychological harm and economic harm.
Precisely.
Okay.
And these are all things that the EU is taking very seriously.
Not just robots taking over the world.
Not yet, no.
So they're acknowledging these potential harms, and they're obviously concerned about it. So what are they doing about it? How are they actually trying to prevent these things from happening?
So that's where the regulations come in.
Okay.
They've created this whole framework for AI development, and it's really rooted in their core values.
Like what kind of values?
The things that the EU is known for: freedom,
Right.
equality, democracy.
Okay, human rights, essentially.
Exactly.
So it sounds like they're not messing around.
No, they're not. These are legal obligations for companies developing AI.
So they're not just like suggestions.
No, these are actual laws.
All right, so they're laying down the law for AI now. What are some of the key rules that they've put in place? What are some of the big things that we need to know about?
So one of the biggest things is data protection.
Okay.
That's like the foundation of their whole approach.
So no more shady algorithms secretly profiling us or selling our data to the highest bidder.
They're trying to put a stop to all of that.
Good.
It's about making sure that AI systems handle your personal data responsibly.
So transparency is key here.
Absolutely. And they have some very specific regulations in place to make sure that happens.
Like what kind of regulations are we talking about?
Well, you've probably heard of the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR.
Oh, yeah, the GDPR, those cookie pop-ups?
Exactly. So the EU is applying those same principles to AI.
So AI can't just exist in a vacuum. It has to operate within the boundaries of these existing laws.
Exactly.
And respect those fundamental rights.
Precisely.
Okay, so data protection, that's a big one. What else is on the EU's AI no-no list?
So there are certain AI practices that they just banned outright because they're considered too harmful.
Oh, wow. Okay, like what?
So, for example, they've completely prohibited the use of AI systems that are designed to manipulate people
Interesting.
into doing things that could harm them.
So like an AI system that tricks you into buying something you don't need, or, pressures you into making a risky financial decision.
Exactly. Those kinds of things are off limits.
So it's not just about protecting our data.
Right.
It's about protecting us from being manipulated by these systems.
Exactly. And they're also really cracking down on any AI that tries to exploit vulnerabilities, especially when it comes to children, people with disabilities, or anyone in a vulnerable economic situation.
Those are the folks who need the most protection.
Absolutely.
With these kinds of things.
So they're trying to create a safe and ethical environment for AI to develop.
It sounds like they're really going above and beyond here.
They are.
And speaking of safeguards, I've been wondering about facial recognition.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be everywhere these days.
It is.
What's the EU's stance on that?
They're definitely proceeding with caution.
Okay.
They've banned any systems that try to use facial recognition to categorize people based on sensitive characteristics.
Like what kind of characteristics?
Things like political views, religion, sexual orientation.
So no judging my political beliefs based on my face scan.
Exactly.
I can get behind that. But what about using facial recognition for things like, crime prevention? Is
Right.
that completely off the table?
It's not entirely banned, but it's heavily restricted.
Okay.
Law enforcement can only use real-time facial recognition in very specific situations.
Like what?
Like if they're investigating serious crimes like terrorism.
Okay.
And even then, they need to get authorization from a judge every single time.
Wow, so it's not something they can just do willy-nilly.
Yep.
It sounds like they're really trying to find that sweet spot between, using AI for good
Right.
and protecting our fundamental rights.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
It is.
And it's something that they're constantly evaluating.
So with all these rules and restrictions in place, how do you think this impacts AI innovation? Do you think it's going to stifle progress?
That's a good question. And it's something that the EU has thought about very carefully. They don't want to stifle innovation,
Right.
but they also want to make sure that it's done responsibly.
Makes sense.
And that's why they've created things like AI regulatory sandboxes.
AI regulatory sandboxes, what in the world is that?
So think of it as kind of a controlled environment where developers can test out their new AI systems
Okay.
under the watchful eye of regulators.
So it's like a playground for AI, but with some safety measures in place.
Exactly.
To make sure things don't get out of hand.
Right. It's a way to encourage innovation while still maintaining oversight and making sure that everyone's complying with the regulations.
So they're trying to encourage innovation, but they also want to make sure that it's done responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about data protection, the ban on manipulative AI practices, restrictions on facial recognition. What other areas are they focusing on?
One area that's getting a lot of attention is high-risk AI systems.
High-risk AI systems. What are those?
So these are systems that have the potential to significantly impact our health, safety, fundamental rights.
Okay, I can see why those would be considered high risk.
Right.
Like, what kind of systems are we talking about here?
Think about AI being used in healthcare
Okay.
to diagnose diseases or recommend treatments, or AI being used in the justice system to help judges make decisions about sentencing.
Okay, so pretty high-stakes stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. These are areas where AI could have a profound impact on people's lives.
And they're saying, hold on, we need to be really careful here.
Absolutely. So they're classified as high risk, and they have to go through a much more rigorous approval process.
Okay, so what does that look like? What are some of the things that they have to do to get approved?
Well, first and foremost, they have to have a really solid risk management system in place.
Okay.
I'm not talking about just like a basic checklist here.
Right.
The EU wants to see a comprehensive plan that covers the entire life cycle of the AI system.
From development to testing to deployment to monitoring.
The whole 9 yards.
So it's about identifying and mitigating potential risks at every stage of the game.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about preventing harm. It's also about making sure that these high-risk systems are reliable.
Right. They have to actually work.
They do, and they have to be able to prove it.
Okay.
They need to be able to show that their system is accurate, robust, and that it's not going to suddenly go haywire in the middle of a critical task. So no cutting corners or rushing to market with a half-baked product.
No, they're setting a high bar here.
Okay.
And speaking of high bars, data quality is another really important factor.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the EU is demanding that these high-risk systems are trained on data that's relevant, representative, and free from bias.
So they're trying to address that whole issue of algorithmic bias head on.
They are, and that brings us to another key requirement, human oversight.
Human oversight. Okay, tell me more about that.
The EU is adamant that humans need to be in the loop when it comes to these high-risk AI systems.
Yeah.
They can't just be left to operate autonomously.
So no Skynet situation.
No, not yet at least.
So what does that look like in practice? Is it like having a human babysit the AI 24/7?
Not necessarily 24/7,
Okay.
but there needs to be a mechanism for human intervention.
Okay, so what would that look like?
So it might involve having a human operator review the system's output before any action is taken. Or it might mean having a human in the loop to override the system if necessary.
So it's like having that human safety net in place.
Exactly.
To make sure that the AI doesn't go off the rails.
Right.
And in some cases, they actually require multiple humans to be involved.
Yes, for example, with certain biometric identification systems.
Okay.
2 humans need to independently verify the system's output before any action is taken.
So like a buddy system.
Exactly.
They're really emphasizing human judgment.
They are.
Even in this age of, advanced technology.
Right.
And let's not forget about transparency.
Oh, yes. Transparency is huge.
This idea that individuals have the right to know how an AI system arrived at a decision that affects them.
Exactly. And it's not just about providing a technical explanation.
Right.
It needs to be clear, concise, and understandable to the average person.
Plain English.
Exactly.
No more hiding behind these complex algorithms or
Right.
impenetrable code.
Nope. They're saying if you're going to use AI to make decisions about people's lives, you need to be able to explain how those decisions were made.
In a way that everyone can understand.
Exactly. And that's especially important when it comes to these high-risk systems where the stakes are higher.
So it's about empowering individuals and giving them a voice in the process.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've got all these rules in place. They're really trying to ensure that AI is developed and used in a way that respects our fundamental rights and values.
They are.
But how do they actually make sure that companies comply with these regulations?
That's a great question. So each EU country has its own national authority that's responsible for overseeing AI.
Okay.
And these authorities have some pretty serious power.
Like what kind of power?
They can investigate complaints, conduct audits, and they can even impose fines on companies that violate the regulations.
So they're not just wagging their finger at companies who are misbehaving.
No, they're not messing around.
They're ready to take action.
And these fines can be pretty hefty.
Yeah, how hefty are we talking?
We're talking millions of euros in some cases.
Okay, so companies definitely have a financial incentive to play by the rules.
They do, but it's not all about punishment.
Oh, really?
They're also offering incentives for companies that are developing AI responsibly.
Oh, interesting. Like what kind of incentive?
Well, they're investing heavily in AI research and development.
Okay.
They're supporting the creation of ethical guidelines and standards for AI. And they're even offering funding opportunities
Oh, wow.
for companies that are working on AI projects that align with your values.
So it's like a carrot and stick approach.
Exactly.
They're setting clear rules, they're enforcing them,
Right.
but they're also trying to foster this culture of responsible innovation.
Exactly.
It's all about finding that balance
It is.
between promoting innovation and protecting the public interest.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like the EU is taking this very seriously.
They are. And it's not just about what happens within their own borders either. They're also trying to influence the global conversation about AI ethics and regulation.
So they want to be the leaders in this space.
They do.
Yeah,
And I think they're well on their way.
it makes sense. So we've been talking a lot about specific AI systems and their potential impact.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture? What about the potential risks of AI as a whole, not just individual systems?
That's a fantastic question.
It's something that keeps me up at night.
Me too. And it's something that the EU is grappling with as well.
Okay.
And that's why they're starting to look at the regulation of general purpose AI.
General purpose AI.
So these are AI systems that are designed to be very adaptable and can be used for a wide range of tasks.
So they're not just designed for one specific purpose.
No, they're like the ultimate multitaskers of the AI world.
That's pretty cool, but also a little bit scary
Yeah, it is.
when you think about, the potential for things to go wrong on a massive scale.
Right. And that's why the EU is being so cautious.
So how are they approaching the regulation of these general purpose AI models? Are they trying to limit what they can be used for?
Not exactly.
Okay.
They're more focused on transparency and accountability.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Well, for starters, providers of these models have to be really upfront
Okay.
about how they train the model, what data they used, what its capabilities are, what its limitations are.
So no more black box algorithms. The EU is saying, if you're going to release one of these powerful AI models into the world, you need to be transparent about what it is and how it works.
Exactly.
That makes sense. What about open source models? Those are developed collaboratively and the code is publicly available. So how do they fit into this whole thing?
The EU actually sees open source as a potential solution here.
Interesting.
They're encouraging the development of open source AI models
Okay.
because they believe that transparency and collaboration can lead to safer and more trustworthy AI.
So they're not trying to stifle innovation. They're just trying to channel it in a responsible direction.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting approach. But what about those systemic risks that we talked about earlier?
Right.
The potential for these models to disrupt, entire industries or even society as a whole. How is the EU addressing that?
So they've established a classification system to identify general-purpose AI models that pose systemic risks.
Okay.
And these are typically models with high-impact capabilities
Hmm.
or a significant reach across the E market.
So they're basically saying, hey, if you're building one of these super powerful AI models, we're going to be watching you very closely.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And these high-risk models are subject to stricter requirements,
Hmm.
things like risk assessments, mitigation plans, ongoing monitoring.
So they're being proactive, but they also have mechanisms in place to deal with problems if they arise.
Exactly. It's a combination of both.
It's all about finding that balance.
It is.
Okay, well, this has been incredibly
And
eye-opening.
it is a fascinating topic.
It is us.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
But it's clear that the EU is really trying to think ahead and put in place a framework that will ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly.
There.
And that's what we all want at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into these high-risk AI systems and the specific requirements they need to meet.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
All right. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty of high-risk AI,
Okay.
it's important to remember that the EU isn't just like putting a blanket ban on all AI development.
Right.
They're actually taking a pretty nuanced approach.
Makes sense.
They recognize that, different AI systems have different levels of potential impact.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Exactly.
So how do they actually go about determining which AI systems are considered high risk? What are some of the factors that they're looking at?
They have a really detailed classification system.
Yeah.
And it's based on two main factors.
Hmm.
The intended use of the system and the potential harm it could cause.
So like an AI system designed to control air traffic is obviously going to have a much higher risk profile than an AI that like recommends songs you might like.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how it's being applied in the real world and what the potential consequences are if something goes wrong.
Absolutely.
And we were talking earlier about the EU's concern about AI impacting fundamental rights.
Right.
Does that play a role in their classification system as well?
It absolutely does.
Okay, how so?
So, for instance, AI systems that are used in essential services like healthcare or Social Security, those are automatically considered high risk.
Because those services have such a huge impact
Exactly.
on people's lives and livelihoods.
Right. So if an AI system is going to be making decisions about who gets access to healthcare or social benefits, the EU wants to make sure that it's done very carefully.
Makes sense. So are there any other areas where they're particularly concerned about AI being used?
Yeah. They're also keeping a close eye on things like law enforcement, border control, even employment.
Okay, so areas where there's a lot of potential for AI to be used in a discriminatory way.
Right. They want to make sure that people's rights are protected.
So let's say an AI system has been flagged as high risk. What happens next?
Well, it means that the developers of that system are going to have to jump through a lot of hoops before they can even think about using it.
Okay.
We're talking about a whole set of mandatory requirements.
So what kind of requirements are we talking about here?
Well, the first one, and probably the most important one, is that they have to have a rock-solid risk management system in place.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about just a basic checklist.
Right.
The EU wants to see a comprehensive plan that covers the entire life cycle of the AI system.
From development to testing to deployment to monitoring.
A whole shebang.
So it's about constantly identifying and mitigating potential risks.
Absolutely.
At every stage of the game.
Right. They need to be thinking about what could go wrong, how likely is it to go wrong, and most importantly, what are we going to do to prevent it from going wrong?
So it's really about that proactive approach to safety and responsibility.
Exactly.
And I imagine reliability is a big factor as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with these high-risk systems.
Right. These systems have to actually work.
They do.
As expected. And the developers have to be able to prove that.
Okay, so no cutting corners, rushing to market with a half-baked product.
Nope.
High standards here.
Very high standards, and data quality is another huge one.
Right, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
So if you're training an AI system on bad data,
right,
you're going to get bad results. And with these high-risk systems, those bad results could have really serious consequences.
They could.
So what are they doing to ensure that the data that's being used to train these systems is high quality?
So they're requiring that the data be relevant,
okay,
representative, and free from bias.
Okay, so they're really trying to tackle that whole issue of algorithmic bias.
They are.
Head on.
And that leads into another really important requirement: human oversight.
Human oversight. Okay, so we're not just letting these AI systems run wild,
Yeah.
making decisions without any human intervention.
Absolutely not. The EU is very clear about that.
So what does that look like in practice? Is it like having a human babysit the AI 24/7?
Well, not necessarily 24/7,
Okay.
but there needs to be a mechanism for human intervention.
Okay, so like what would that look like?
So it might involve having a human operator review the system's output before any action is taken.
Okay.
Or it might mean having a human in the loop to override the system if necessary.
So it's about having that human safety net in place?
Exactly.
Just to make sure that things don't go off the rails.
Right, and in some cases, they actually require multiple humans to be involved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For example, with certain biometric identification systems, 2 humans need to independently verify the system's output.
Wow, so 2 sets of eyes.
2 sets of eyes before any action is taken.
Okay, so they're really emphasizing human judgment here,
They are.
even in this age of advanced technology.
Right.
And we touched on transparency earlier, but I think it's worth emphasizing again,
It is a big one.
especially with these high-risk systems.
Absolutely.
So this whole idea of explainability, the right for individuals to know how an AI system arrived at a decision that affects them.
Right. And it can't just be a technical explanation that nobody understands.
Right. It needs to be clear, concise,
Plain language.
plain English, something that the average person can understand.
Exactly.
So if you're using AI to make decisions about people's lives,
Right.
you need to be able to explain how those decisions were made.
Absolute.
And that makes sense, especially with these high-risk systems where the stakes are so high.
Right.
It's about empowering individuals, giving them a voice in the process.
Exactly. The EU is trying to make sure that AI is developed and used in a way that respects our rights and our values.
And it sounds like they're not just relying on goodwill or good intention.
No, they're not.
They're putting some real teeth into these regulations
They are?
with a pretty robust enforcement mechanism.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about enforcement. How are they actually making sure that companies are complying with all these rules?
So each EU country has its own national authority
Okay.
that's responsible for overseeing AI.
Okay.
And these authorities have the power to investigate complaints, conduct audits,
Okay.
and even impose fines on companies that violate the regulations.
So it's not just a slap on the wrist.
No, it's not. They're not messing around.
They're ready to take action.
And those fines can be pretty hefty, too. We're talking millions of euros in some cases.
Okay, so companies definitely have a financial incentive to play by the rules.
They do, but it's not all about punishment either.
Oh, really?
No. The EU is also offering some incentives
Okay.
for companies that are developing AI responsibly.
Like what kind of incentives?
So they're investing heavily in AI research and development.
Right.
We're supporting the creation of ethical guidelines and standards, and they're even offering funding opportunities
Oh, wow.
for companies that are working on AI projects that align with their values.
So it's kind of like a carrot and stick approach.
Exactly.
They're setting clear rules, enforcing them,
Right.
but they're also trying to foster this culture of responsible AI innovation.
Exactly.
It's all about finding that balance
Yes.
between promoting innovation and protecting the public interest.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like the EU is taking this challenge very seriously.
They are. And it's not just about what's happening within their own borders either.
Really?
They're really trying to shape the global conversation about AI ethics and regulation.
So they want to be the leaders in this space.
They do.
Which is admirable.
It is.
So we've talked a lot about these specific AI systems and their potential impact,
Right.
but I want to kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
What about the potential risks of AI as a whole?
Yeah.
Not just individual systems.
That's a great question, and it's something that's on a lot of people's minds,
It is.
including the EU.
Okay.
And that's why they're starting to look at this whole idea of regulating general-purpose AI.
General purpose AI, what is that?
So these are AI systems that are designed to be incredibly adaptable.
Okay.
They can be used for a wide range of tasks.
So not just designed for one specific purpose.
Right, they're like the Swiss Army knives of the AI world.
That's pretty cool, but also a little bit scary
It can be.
when you think about the potential for, things to go wrong on a massive scale.
Exactly. And that's why the EU is proceeding with caution.
So how are they actually approaching the regulation of these general purpose AI models? Are they trying to limit what they can be used for?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
They're more focused on transparency and accountability.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Well, for starters, the providers of these models have to be really upfront about how they trained the model, what data they used, what its capabilities are, what its limitations are.
So no more black box algorithms.
Nope. The EU is saying if you're going to release one of these powerful AI models into the world, you need to be transparent about what it is and how it works.
That makes a lot of sense. What about open source models? Those are developed collaboratively. The code is publicly available, so how do they fit into all of this?
Well, the EU actually sees open source as a potential solution here.
Really?
They're actually encouraging the development of open source AI models
Interesting.
because they believe that transparency and collaboration can actually lead to safer and more trustworthy AI.
So they're not trying to stifle innovation, they're just trying to steer it in a responsible direction.
Exactly.
That's a cool approach. But how are they addressing those systemic risks that we talked about earlier? This potential for these general-purpose AI models to disrupt entire industries or even society as a whole.
So they've established a classification system
Okay.
to identify general-purpose AI models that pose those kinds of systemic risks.
Okay, and what are they looking at to determine that?
So typically, these are going to be models with high-impact capabilities or a really broad reach across the entire EU market.
So they're basically saying, hey, if you're building one of these super powerful AI models, we're going to be watching you very closely.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
And what happens if they are building one of those models?
Well, those high-risk models are subject to a lot stricter requirements.
Like what kind of requirement?
Things like risk assessments, mitigation plans, ongoing monitoring.
So they're being proactive,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have mechanisms in place to deal with problems if they arise.
Exactly. It's a combination of both.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance again.
Always finding that balance.
Well, this has been incredibly eye-opening.
It's a fascinating area.
It is.
And it's constantly evolving.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface here.
Right.
But it's clear that the EU is really trying to think ahead
Mm-hmm.
and put in place a framework that will ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly.
Absolutely. They're really leading the way in a lot of ways.
And I think that's something to be commended.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into these high-risk AI systems and the specific requirements that they need to meet.
Sounds good.
Stay with us. Okay, so we're back. And, we left off talking about this whole general-purpose AI thing.
Right. The EU wants to make sure they're used safely.
And responsibly.
Exactly.
So I think it makes sense to start by, kind of defining what we mean by general-purpose AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we actually talking about here?
So these are AI systems that are designed to be really adaptable.
Okay.
They can be used for a whole bunch of different things.
Well, they're not just designed for one specific task.
Right. They're kind of like the Swiss Army knives of the AI world.
Which is pretty cool when you think about it.
It is.
But it also kind of makes you nervous when you think about the potential for things to go wrong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At a massive scale.
A double-edged sword for sure.
So how is the EU approaching the regulation of these general-purpose AI models? Are they trying to limit what they can be used for? What's their strategy here?
It's interesting. They're not necessarily trying to put limits on the use cases.
Okay.
They're more focused on making sure that there's transparency and accountability.
Transparency and accountability. So what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, for starters, the providers of these general-purpose AI models, they have to be upfront about how they train the model,
Okay.
what data they used, what its capabilities are, what its limitations are.
So no more black boxes?
No more hiding behind the curtain.
The EU is saying, if you're going to release one of these models into the world, you need to tell us exactly what it is and how it works.
Exactly. They want to make sure that everyone understands the risks and the potential benefits.
That makes a lot of sense. What about open source models? Those are a big part of the AI landscape.
AI.
And, by definition, they're developed collaboratively. The code is publicly available.
Right.
So how do those fit into this whole regulatory framework?
So the EU actually sees open source as part of the solution here.
Really?
They're actually encouraging the development of open source AI models
Interesting. Why is that?
because they believe that transparency and collaboration can actually lead to safer, more trustworthy AI.
So the idea is that if more people are involved in the development process,
Right.
if more eyes are on the code,
Mm-hmm.
it's less likely that something harmful will slip through the cracks.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of the crowd.
The wisdom of the crowd.
Exactly.
That's a really fascinating approach. But how do they address the potential for systemic risks?
Yeah.
These are the models that could potentially disrupt entire industries or even society as a whole.
Right. They've thought about that too.
So how are they handling that?
So they've got a classification system
Okay.
to identify Which of these general-purpose AI models pose the biggest systemic risks?
Okay, so what are the criteria for that? How do they decide which ones are the riskiest?
So they're looking at models with high-impact capabilities
Okay.
or a really wide reach across the EU market.
So they're basically saying, hey, if you're building one of these super powerful AI models, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on you.
Pretty much.
And what happens if they determine that a model does pose a significant systemic risk?
Well, those models are subject to stricter requirements.
Like what?
They had to do more thorough risk assessments,
Okay.
have really robust mitigation plans,
Mm-hmm.
and they're subject to ongoing monitoring.
So it's kind of a combination of being proactive and reactive.
Exactly.
They're trying to anticipate potential problems, but they also have mechanisms in place to deal with problems if they do arise.
Exactly. It's about having a multi-layered approach.
Well, I have to say, this has been an incredibly informative deep dive.
It's a complex topic, but it's so important.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Right. There's always more to learn.
But I think we've covered a lot of ground.
I think so too.
We've talked about the EU's overall approach to AI regulation, the specific requirements for high-risk AI systems,
Right.
the challenges of regulating general-purpose AI.
It's a constantly evolving landscape.
It is, and you know what I think is really important to emphasize is that the EU is really taking the lead here.
Yeah.
They're putting a lot of thought and effort into developing a framework that will ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly.
And ethically.
Exactly, and I think that's something that we should all be paying attention to.
I agree.
And, whether you're a developer, policymaker, or just someone who's curious about the future of technology, it's important to stay informed, stay engaged,
Absolutely.
and keep asking those critical questions about how AI is being developed and how it's impacting our lives.
Because it's going to impact all of us.
It is. All right, well, that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. As always, stay curious.